Your chief executive walks into the boardroom on a Tuesday and gives 60 days notice. The chief operating officer learns at the same meeting. 3 top clients have personal relationships with the outgoing leader. Sales hasn't heard, and the senior leadership team is calculating who picks up what. And all the board wants to know is who's next. But the real problem? Nobody wrote down what would happen if this seat emptied. In this episode, we're going to walk through the succession plan. It'll help you achieve a business that's strategically grounded from any leadership transition, planned or not. Hi, I'm Summer, founder of Driven Connection, and we eliminate inefficiencies that stunt growth. Most leaders treat succession as a retirement form filed in human resources, but succession is about business continuity. It's the artifact that proves your business can survive a leadership transition that wasn't scheduled. A merger, an acquisition, a chief officer who takes a different offer, a health event, even a board decision. The conference board found that the S&P 500 chief executive turnover hit 13% in 2025, and the external hires nearly doubled. Spencer Stuart's analysis of founder transition names what most plans miss. Founders carry more than a job title. They carry informal authority, the calls employees make outside the reporting structure. They carry psychological ownership, the identity anchored in one person. They carry tactic institutional knowledge, the reason every consequential decision was made. None of that transfers because you put a new name on the organization chart. Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius spent 23 years being developed before he took the throne. The transition worked because succession was a discipline, not an event. The plan is what builds the discipline. Let me show you the pattern. I've spent the last 5 years as a fractional chief operating officer, the person companies call when there's a C-suite that's empty or about to be, and there isn't a successor inside the building. The arc looks almost the exact same every time I come in. The seat has been empty for weeks, sometimes months. The team is exhausted because they've been routing decisions through 3 people who don't actually have the authority. The owner or chief executive is exhausted because they're back in operational meetings they thought they left years ago. And every time, one of them tells me some version of the same line. We knew this was coming, we never got around to it. Across those engagements, the work was cut project timeline delays by 85% and saved companies upwards of $500,000 plus apiece, recovered, not earned, because that money was leaking through the missing seat. The turning point in every engagement isn't operational. It's the moment the owner agrees to write down what the seat does so somebody else can be developed into it. That moment never happens before the seat empties, and it always happens after. If 77% of mid-market companies are heading into a leadership transition in any 5-year period, why don't they have a plan? There's 3 reasons for that. First, founder identity is infused with the role. Harvard Business Review named this in 2025 hesitant CEO syndrome. Plan is filled, the successor is named. The founder is still in every meeting, and the cost lives on the payroll line. You're paying a successor who can't make decisions. Second, the plan lives in HR, not the boardroom. The 2026 Route to Top report finds 25% of leaders treat succession as a priority. When the plan sits in HR, it's a compliance artifact instead of a continuity instrument. The cost shows up on the leader's time. The highest paid people in the building absorb the crisis a plan could have prevented. Third, no triggers, no decision right transfer. The plan doesn't define what activates it. It doesn't move authority. So the name successor inherits the title, but not the operating reality. And Strategy and PwC found 69% of executives replacing top quartile predecessors landed in the bottom 2 quartiles. The loss shows up as forfeit revenue and abandoned initiatives. Strategy stalls when no one has the authority to keep it moving. All 3 share one feature. Nobody is paid to write the plan. The succession map is the artifact that gets written in one page within a leadership team that can act on it. Here's the highest leverage move. It's a question, not a checklist, and it surfaces the work the succession plan will solve. In structural engineering, the load path is the route that force travels, with the point it applied down to the foundation that holds the building up. The integrity of a building depends on more than one column carrying that weight. If every load runs through one column, the design is brittle by definition. What engineering calls a load path, organizational design treats a decision pathway. The principle is the same. A system built so one node carries the load is brittle by design. A system built so authority can flow through more than one node is resilient by design. Most mid-market companies are built the brittle way. Every decision, every customer relationship, every escalation throws through one person, usually the founder, the chief operating officer, or the top revenue leader. Remove that node without redistributing the load, and the structure doesn't redirect. It collapses inward. Here's the diagnostic that surfaces yours. Picture your 3 most senior people unreachable for 30 days. No calls, no email, and no back channel through their assistants, and no escalation up to the board. What stops? Which decisions stall? Which client only trusts her, and now nobody else? Which approval freezes? Which vendor relationship goes cold? The list you imagine is your succession plan's opening brief. That's where the load redistribution starts. Operational efficiency at the leadership layer is what the succession plan is built to produce. Here are 2 examples at scale in opposite directions. In 2020, Mastercard's chief executive, Ajay Banga, walked his board through a multi-year succession plan that included Michael Maybach as his successor. Maybach had been chief product officer since 2016 and president since earlier that year. The team and the board had watched him operate as second in command for years. The structural decision that made the transition work wasn't the selection. It was what Banga did after. He moved to executive chairman for 1 year, giving Maybach the operating reality of the chief executive seat while staying available for institutional context. The exit, the selection, and the chairman year were 3 separate decisions made over 3 separate years. Banga and the new chairman co-authored the Harvard Business Review account of the handoff. The share price held steady and the strategy continued. The other direction is WeWork in 2019. Adam Neumann had built a real estate operating company valued at $47 billion and controlled it through dual-class shares that gave him the supermajority voting power. No successor bench, no governance separation. The S-1 filing for public offering exposed both, and the company unraveled in weeks. Valuation collapsed from $47 billion to roughly $10. Everything that followed, the bailout, the leadership change, the years to recover, was downstream of one decision the company didn't make. They didn't separate the founder's authority from the company's continuity. Both of those examples started in the same place, the decision that separated them from whether the leader who built the company designed the system to outlast them. Here's how you do that in your business starting this week. Here's the activity, the succession map. It's a 1-page artifact your leadership team builds together in about an hour. The hardest part isn't the page, it's the first conversation, saying the 3 names out loud in a room with the person who will have to act on the plan. That conversation is the work most leaders avoid for years. The map gives that conversation a place to land. That's how business becomes strategically grounded for any leadership transition, planned or not. Step 1, name the 3 roles. With your leadership team, pick the 3 seats whose absence for 60 days would stop the operation. Use this exact framing. If this person were unreachable for 30 days starting tomorrow, what stops? 3 is the discipline. 3 is what fits on a page someone can maintain. Step 2, name 2 successors per role. A ready now successor, someone who could step in this quarter, and a ready in 12 months successor, somebody who needs a year of development. 2 names, not 1, because unnamed second candidates leave and take the bench with them. Use this exact framing with each named successor. I'm putting you on a path. Here's the role. Here's the timeline. Here's what you need to develop. That's how a name becomes a successor. And step 3, define the triggers and the first 72 hours. List what activates the plan: a resignation, a health event, a board decision, an acquisition. For each, write what happens in the first day, the first week, and the first month. The first 3 calls after a transition decide whether your team and your customers say. And last, step 4, schedule the quarterly review. The map is alive only if your leadership team, or for a small business, you and 1 or 2 advisors, reconfirm every quarter and moves the development plan forward. Use this exact framing in the review. What changes about the bench this quarter? What's still empty? To recap, step 1, name the 3 roles. Step 2, name 2 successors each, ready now and ready in 12 months. Step 3, define the triggers and the first 72 hours. Step 4, reconfirm every quarter. And that's the succession map. Run the map on your business this week, and you'll see exactly where the load runs through one person and whose absence would stop the operation. That's the start of a business that's strategically grounded for any leadership transition. You're learning, you're growing, and you're building a system-led leadership team where your business stays strategically grounded for any leadership transition. Each episode names a different pattern. Subscribe so the next one finds you. I'm your host, Summer Ames Prodan. We'll fix another inefficiency on the next episode of Driven Growth.